Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I ask for approval of the agenda, I would like to ask that we amend the agenda and move the presentations with public participation. We have some folks here from that are visiting us today, and I want to let them go ahead. And also, I believe that the audit presentation will answer some questions. So let's go ahead. I would like to ask that we have a motion to amend the agenda to move up.
I think we have to first move to approve the agenda, and then someone has to amend it.
Okay.
I moved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the agenda. I move for the approval of the agenda.
I move that we amend the agenda to put presentations before public participation.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, the first presentation we have is with Mrs. Teen, and she'll be talking about great things at the middle school.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Emily Teen. I am excited to be here to talk about the great things that are going on at the middle school. And I'm so fortunate to have 4 of my students with me today to talk about what has been happening. So I named my presentation tonight focusing on culture because in this new role, I've been at the middle school for 12 years. This is my 13th year, but now in this new role, I have put a lot of focus on bringing some things back to the middle school and having the kids plan a lot of things. So I want to talk about what we've been doing and things that we have planned for the upcoming months. So a few things, and I'm going to just kind of read from this and then add some things in as we go. Activating our student and community involvement, empowering both my staff and the students in the building to really take charge and lead things that they're interested in, and you're going to see some of those things tonight. I'm so happy that the students are planning a lot of the events, and I have staff members that are taking charge and planning a lot of clubs and groups that we have that are going to be happening. So to start, I would love to bring up Sophia Rempel and Ethan Serve to talk about student council. So guys, I'll scoot over.
Thank you. Hi, we're Sophia and Ethan. We are in student council. We've been planning some of the homecoming and Halloween spirit weeks based off some of the things that the student body has said that they really would want to do this year. You can do the advisor.
Hi, I'm Ethan Serve, and some of the spirit words that we had we have spirit word this week and next week, and like today we had Alaska versus Hawaiian Day, and then tomorrow we have just as like your favorite sports team, and then Friday is homecoming week, and then like Monday we have wear your Halloween costume because we have a Halloween dance and a lot of other fun things.
In advisory, what we have going on is we're doing door decorating. So every class is decorating their door for Halloween, and then we're going to be judging the winners. Do you want to do the service project?
Yeah, so some of the service projects we have for student council is last year we did the school sign and we painted it and fixed it up a little bit. And this year we want to get like new frames and new pictures to go around the middle school.
Mm-hmm. And we're hoping to do more things that involve the community, and we want to do some things similar to that. And for charity fundraisers, we want to do more bake sales and the noisy fundraisers like we did last year, which helped raise money for the school sign we got out front. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So here are some of the Spirit Week that we have planned, and so we're getting some pictures of that. We have a lot of participation with dressing up for that. And I'm excited now to bring up Colette Setek and Liliana Andronic to talk about Builders Club.
So I'm Lily and I'm Colette, and we've been doing Builders Club since last year, and we really liked it. We did like a lot of projects and stuff, and a lot of like events.
Last year, about 80 kids signed up, and this year we have like about 100 kids signed up for Builders Club.
So some things we did was we did the Donut Fridays where we sold donuts to kids in the morning on Fridays for $2 a donut, and then
we have Birthday Club where when it's a student's birthday, They get a decoration on their locker, and they get a card slipped into their locker that has a little ticket, and then they take that ticket to the school store, and then they get a bag that has just like a bunch of little things in it for their birthday, and they get recognized for their birthday.
We also did recycling club, where actually I was the leader of it. We went to advisory and we took all the recycling bins on like a big cart, and we went outside and put them all in like the dumpster and stuff. And then like we did that for like every Friday so that we could like clean out the recycling.
And then we also do a lot of service projects. We did last year, it was World Kindness Day, and we handed out like bracelets and magnets to people and like put stuff on their lockers. And then we also did a cereal drive, and at our meeting after school today, we had veterans come in and give a presentation about Veterans Day, and then we got to talk with them, and that was cool.
Another thing we're doing is transforming our building to enhance school spirit. So we're going to like clean up our school and like decorate it and make it all nice, and like just like clean it up and do great. Like
We also have a group that goes to Island House on Macomb, and like one day each month they will go, and I think last year it started when a group of kids went and sang Christmas carols with them, and then they've done cookie decorating, they painted pumpkins, they do a different activity each month, and
And then this week, or next week, we're doing the Halloween dance on Monday. So that's when we get to wear our costumes to school. And there's going to be like a DJ, there's going to be food, there's going to be obviously the dancing, and
And then we also do stuff through the rec department. Last year we helped with the daddy-daughter dance. There was an Easter thing at Centennial Farm, and then we recently did Harvest Fest.
yeah.
And then, Parkland and Meridian?
Oh yeah, and did you say food?
Yeah, like Parkland and Meridian.
Yeah, and then we just did things for like Parkland and Meridian a little bit.
We helped with Literacy Night and Field Day, and in March was Reading Month. We read to all of the kids. We brought in books, and that was fun.
Great, guys. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. That was awesome. And I want to give a shout out to Wendy. Wendy runs our Builders Club, and so helping with that, and Kimberly runs our student council. So we're doing a lot of great things with that. Here's a few things that are continued. Parent on Patrol. So parents watching, come on into the building. We'd love to have you. It's so great to have faces that are around and keeping our building safe. Peer-to-peer is doing popcorn sales, and we now have a peer lounge that students can use throughout the day. We have a web leader mentorship, so our 8th graders mentoring not only our 6th graders new to the building, but our 7th graders. We have the book fair next week, and then in December, something that's coming back is the Court to School program with 33rd District, so we're excited for that. So here's just a few things that's been going on in our classes. The drones are super cool. A few things that are new this year, boater safety course. Our 7th graders in health class will be getting the boater safety, so they'll leave with their certificate. We're working on a journalism club for 2nd semester to get a school paper going. We have a lot of participation in that, and so the kids are eager to get that started. We'll be doing a Friendsgiving bake sale the week of Thanksgiving. Student of the Month and Staff Spotlight are 2 new things, so each month we'll be recognizing from the staff, we'll be recognizing students in the building, and the goal is to reach every student by the end of the year. So also a big thanks to PAT for helping sponsor our staff spotlight for that, and that's from the students recognizing their teachers, and then the teachers recognizing students also. So here you'll see a little bit of the mentorship. Here's our Student of the Month wall, which you'll see when you walk into the middle school. And then, that's our picture from today. The students get a little treat bag if they're recognized for Student of the Month, and they get a gift card to the school store. So, and here's our staff spotlight for October. Mrs. DeAngelis, Mr. Flood, Mrs. Emmon, and Ms. Schmitto. And then one of our teachers, Ms. Gelzer, she's our new math teacher, is going to be doing a pumpkin decorating contest. And then we'll have our Halloween day on Monday for dressing up and going to the dance. So we're super excited. We have a lot coming up and a lot to look forward to. So that's it. All I got. Thank you guys
so much, and thank you to all the
job, all of you.
students
Very nice.
being here. I apologize because I missed on the agenda the student council, but I knew that we had our middle school student council was presenting there, and unfortunately, the high school student council could not be here tonight. So I apologize for that. But thank you so much for being here and for bringing the students. All right, next I'm going to invite up Carrie Blanchett, and she is going to be talking about our bond sales.
There you go, that sounds better. Good evening. Again, Carrie Blanchett with PFM Financial Advisors. We work with the district on your capital financing, and I'm here to talk about your bond issue and just give you an update on where we are on the issuance process. So just as an overview, as you know, the voters of the district approved 72.39 million of bonds, originally planned to be issued over 3 series from 23 to 28. The district has issued 30.118 million of that to date, and you have 42.27 million left to be issued. Now, when we put the initial timing together, it was a timing that worked to be within the millage parameters because of favorable interest rate, favorable taxable values. You're in a position to accelerate the issuance of some of those future series and potentially lock in lower cost for the project and get some of those much-needed funds sooner so that projects can move along. So what we did is we prepared really a multitude of options, and what we have here is just sort of the final options that we've reviewed with the district. And there's 2 options, one that we would break it down into 3 additional series. There was some, benefits from federal taxation issues with that one. But the section, that's the first option, 1A, and the second option, 2A, which is the option we're recommending, accelerates 27.82 million of it into being issued next year so that you can bring that into next year, get that money, and do it within the millage parameters. That option actually produces $361,000 more for the district in dollars that can be spent on projects. And it also, we're estimating to save about $656,000 over the life of the bonds in interest cost. So that is the option that we're recommending. So you would issue 27.82 million next year, and then the intent is to come back in 28 for the remaining 14.45 million. Now, we'll continue to monitor that, work with your construction management team, and if you, in Plant Moran, to see if you need to accelerate that last piece earlier or if you can. So we'll revisit that every year. And this is just a graphical depiction of the debt that the district has outstanding. The burgundy represents the debt that is outstanding. This is the millage needed to service that debt. The dark gray is this next series in 2025, and the light gray is the last series. But all of this is planned to be, well within your 5.59 mil debt levy, and it actually is shown to decline over time, the millage. And then last but not least, given the interest rates, when we issue the 2025 series of the new money bonds, it is likely that the district will be in a position where it can refinance its 2015 bonds for a savings. It's not a huge savings, but it is about $260,000, which would be a reduction of taxpayers' debt cost. So we would wrap that in, and you would get the benefit of doing it along with the new money, so you would save cost. So we would monitor that and optimally do it with the new money issue. And is there, no babies yet, by the way. So Sean, they're on it will be this week though. So, yeah, so.
Does anyone have questions for Carrie?
I just have one question on the refunding of the 2015 bond. Do we need to make a decision on that at some point within those 3 months before May 1st?
Yes, there will be a resolution being brought back to the board to authorize this Series 2025 new money bonds and the refunding bonds. And then, given the parameters in that resolution, we normally set forth certain minimum savings thresholds that you would want to achieve in order to execute that. But if the market moved away, you would simply just not do the issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. All right, we are going to move on to our audit presentation. Can I invite Tim Crossan up?
Thank you. My name's Tim Crossan. I'm a principal with Yo and Yo, and I was out here working with my team and Linda and her team to bring you your financial audit results for fiscal year June 30, 2024. First, I'm going to go over a little overview of what the auditors do. So we take a look at internal control. Do you have procedures? Are you following them? Risk assessment, meaning we have to evaluate things that are high risk and develop procedures for those. We take a look at your documents, your payroll reports, your bank recs, and see if those agree to the trial balance and the numbers. We take a look at analytics, so we look at this year versus last year. We look at this year versus budget and look for reasonableness there. We do take a lot of asset and liability approaches to the numbers and where they came from, what are they supported by for accounts receivable, payroll, accrued payroll. And then peer review, so every 3 years another CPA firm comes out and audits us to see if we're doing what we say we're doing. And then of course unpredictability is really important. If we keep doing the same things every year, the audit is less effective, so we have to do things a little different to keep Linda busy and on her toes. So the end result there is 3 reports that we issue for you. One is the financial statements. The other is the single audit report or the report on expenditures of federal awards. And then a required communications with the board, which is our management comment letter. A quick summary of those. So on the financial statements, we have unmodified opinion or an unqualified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that you can get. The single audit report is also unmodified for ESSER, the major program, and there were no findings, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, either on the internal control over financial reporting or on the single audit side. So both 2 really good things to have in your audit reports. So I have some slides on the numbers. The first couple are all of your funds. So this would be total assets, liabilities, and then your fund balance for general fund, your capital project funds, your cafeteria fund. So up at the top, you ended fiscal year 2024 with $43.5 million in assets, about $7.6 million in liabilities. And that leaves you with total fund balances in your governmental funds of $35,986,000. So you have a lot going on. We had PFM just present on your bonds. So in the middle there, you've got the big number, $29,677,000. That is restricted for capital projects on bonds that you've already issued and you are spending throughout the district on projects. Then you have some other restricted money, $1,370,000 for cafeteria and debt. So those have to be spent on those purposes. One is for the child nutrition and cafeteria fund, and the other is for debt payments. And then you have some that's committed for student and school activities of $841,000. You have $100,000 of committed for health insurance costs expected in upcoming fiscal year 25 of $100,000. And then you have assigned for budgeted excess expenditures over revenues. So that is a deficit budget that you have adopted for fiscal year '25 of $931,000. And that leaves you with unassigned fund balance, which would all be general fund, of $2,700,000 for fiscal year 2024.
Tim, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Mike was used to it, so you're not yet. But don't worry, this will be the last time you have to deal with me. So, I'm going to point out some things. So when you were looking at this approximately 36 million, that's not all our discretionary fund balance. That's the majority of that is in our capital fund, correct?
29.6 million alone is in your capital project funds.
And the 931,000 is our projected expenditures in excess of revenue for the fiscal year ending '25.
So that's based on the budget you adopted probably back in May of 2024 for the upcoming fiscal year '25.
And that budget we've discussed not with you, but in this session, which was under our current collective bargaining agreement. So even as we are right now, we're going to be losing $1 million this year.
You're budgeting to lose that as your best guess.
You're right.
When you
Our
adopt.
best guess as of right now.
Yep.
And then even if we have all our magic that we have at the end of the year when we true up, because we're conservative, at best, we're going to pick up a couple $100,000, Linda. And when we true up our reserves at the end of the year. So even if that all came to fruition, we would still lose, we're projecting to lose $700,000 this year as is.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to look at it as a percentage, because and Tim will go over this, the percentage is usually between 2.5% to 3% swing
Right.
from the budget to the actual.
Yeah,
So when you're,
and I'm just trying to get
you're just trying to get numbers,
yeah, and it's usually $200,000-300,000.
yeah, at least that, yep.
So, all right, thank you.
So next we'll take a quick look at the revenue and expense. So as the first slide was for all your governmental funds, this one is also, it has some detail for your revenue and expense for your debt service fund, your capital project funds, and then your non-major governmental funds would be student and school activities, your cafeteria fund, and your sinking fund. What I'm going to focus is on the far left fund, your general fund, which includes that assigned budget deficit, and then your unassigned fund balance also. So you had 23.4 million in revenue for fiscal year '23, and then you had 24 million of expenses for fiscal year '23. So 2023 had a loss of $677,000. So this year you ended with 24,857,000 of revenue and 24,906,000 of expense. So you can see down below, change in fund balance, that's a loss of $49,089 for fiscal year '24. So that's taking you from a total general fund balance of $4,139,000 down to $4,090,000, which is about 6.4% fund balance for fiscal year '24, and that's down a little bit from 17.2% ending fiscal year '23.
And what's a healthy district's fund balance, like 12-13%?
Well, your goal is about 2 to 3 months expenses, so that's about 15 to 18%.
We've always said that we want a minimum of 15% fund balance.
Right.
Moving forward, always.
I'm just saying we're getting close to the edge where we were,
9 years ago.
yeah, where we were under the watch of the state for a couple years.
Yep.
So as a school district, you're required to adopt a budget every year. You have to spend within that budget, that is the law. So you were very, very close on your final expense budget versus your actual. So you were just about 3% off your final budget amendment that you had adopted back again in May of '24 for June 30, 2024's fiscal year. So that's really, really tight budgeting there, just about 3% off of what you had adopted. So that's really good budgeting on Linda's part. So I've got a couple slides here on where the revenue comes from and where the expenses are. So you've got 4 primary revenue streams for this is all general fund now. So you have a local part here, about 2.1 million. That's going to be a lot of property taxes. Your intra-district off to the left, that's going to be a lot of county sources. So there might be some small programs in there, maybe for special ed or GSRP. A lot of that's also going to be in your enhancement millage that you get from the county. On the left there, you have your federal sources of 1,835,000. That will include ESSER, that will include Title I. And then what is not covered by those sources is made up by state aid. So you've got $19.1 million in state aid revenue. That's about 77% of your revenue. So comparatively, last year, that was about 78%. So your sources didn't change a lot. You've got about 7% federal this year. That was about 7% of your revenue last year. And then 7% county, and that's about 6% last year. So relatively unchanged, at least as a percentage amongst your revenue. Sure.
Maybe this is an unfair question. Other districts in Title I versus us, how much more do they get than we do? Because we have so few, significantly fewer free and reduced lunch. Like, let's pick a district like Southgate, Riverview, Wyandotte. Where would they be more closer to?
Well, they're going to get a lot more Title I. It's based on need. So Title I, special ed, those would all be much bigger based on the programs and the student count and the needs of that student body. Your cafeteria fund would include your child nutrition revenue, so that would be federal money, which you get very little of. But the state does have a program now where it's free via state. So that would also still be in your cafeteria fund as revenue, but they would be much bigger because a lot of those are driven by student count.
But I guess what I am trying to draw out here is a lot of the general funding is keyed off of free, like the Title I is keyed off the free and reduced lunch. It's not, so when I say it's a free and reduced lunch, it's not, the federal funding just doesn't go to free and reduced lunch for those people. That's what's usually that's what's used to determine the rest of the federal funding that a district gets.
Yes, it's based on student count and then need in the application. But does that answer your question?
So if I were to look at Southgate, Riverview, Wyandotte, that 7% might approach closer to 15.
Could be higher, yep, a lot higher, especially in those years they were spending ESSER. They got a lot more ESSER dollars than you did, so that proportionately would be a much bigger piece than it is for you at 7%.
Thank you.
Flipped ahead too far. So here's where the money is going. This is a pie chart of your expenses. So the two big parts here are your salary and benefits. So on the far right, you've got salaries make up about 44% of your expenses. On the bottom left, you have employee benefits. So this would include things like health costs, payroll taxes, retirement. That makes up about 35% of your expenses. So those two together are your employee costs of about 80%. So going over the farther on the left, you have purchase services, which is a lot of people cost also. So this would be a lot of like EduStaff would be included in about 11% of your spending at $2.7 million. Supplies and materials are going to round out some of the smaller expenses, which would be like books and office supplies. And then you've got a little bit of other and capital outlay at about 2% of your spending in general fund.
And then, again, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting too much. And then Linda, on the purchase, so we've traditionally been around 85% for wages and benefits historically. We're at about approximately 80 now. But if we would do apples to apples in the purchase services, transportation is how much, and how much of that labor, if we would have moved that over, we'd be a lot closer to that 85%.
Right, transportation cost, I'm rough numbers, about $1 million, so.
And
That's in the
Tim, what
purchase
is the norm?
services.
What's a district? Is it in the 80 range?
80 to 85% usually is salaries and benefits. It depends, again, and transportation is outsourced or is an employee. Are they outsourcing? Cafeteria funds could be done through a Chartwells or they could be done with employees. So it depends on how you're using those contractors versus employees.
And I just have one more. I don't know if this would be suited for Audrey or Linda, but can you tell us over the last several years what we've invested in the teachers and play groups.
I mean, I can go back probably to 21, like 21, 22, 22, 23, we had a 2-year contract. And during that time, the estimated cost was $620,000 for that. It was a 2-year contract at that time. And then in 23, 24, with the negotiations, the estimated investment was about $550,000
In addition to the 620.
in addition to this. Now, there could have been retirements in those years, so that, cost may not have, been a true cost going forward. But at that time, that was the cost of the contract negotiation settlement. And then currently, we're still in negotiations, but we have invested this year steps, which the estimated cost is about $210,000.
So about 1.2 million over those 2 years.
Yes.
Correct.
Invested into it.
Thanks, Linda. Sorry, Tim.
Sorry, Tim.
So this is a comparison of your revenue side by side with your expenses from 2024 back to 2020's fiscal year. So the left column there is the revenue, the dark blue, the light blue is expenses. So you could see a trend you had for 3 years that was pretty consistent among school districts where they had more revenue than expense. So you were building fund balance for those 3 years, largely driven by COVID. So you had a lot of ESSER money, you had CRF money briefly there in fiscal year 2020 and maybe 2021. And it was pretty common to see rising revenues. A lot of that was meant to be restricted or spent on needs brought on by COVID, so then also more expenses. Then we've got fiscal year 23. I had mentioned you had a loss of $677,000, so your expenses are greater there than your revenue. And you could see you're very near break even for fiscal year 24, but you have expenses exceeding revenue for fiscal year 24. So those are 2 consecutive years of a decrease in fund balance in your general fund.
Tim, not only do we have the ESSER funds, and somebody correct me, I can't think of the name, but we also been receiving the, what are the funds that we've been receiving over the past years that have really saved us?
Enhancement millage?
Enhancement millage, yeah. Because without that enhancement millage, we would not have been in the positive at all.
Yeah, that's been a great win for Wayne County districts. You're the only ones that get that in the state.
And I'm going to say in the last 2 years with the isolated school district money as well.
Yeah. Without that, we'd be in a very dire.
Yes.
That enhancement millage, if my memory serves, is what really pulled us out of deficit spending from the state.
Yeah. Without it, we'd still probably be climbing.
Yep, it behaves like state aid. It's unrestricted. Or, well, not all of your state aid is unrestricted, but it is unrestricted, and the nature of some of your state aid is unrestricted.
And that millage is up for renewal
This November.
this November.
So I'd mentioned that on the revenue slide, that big part was state aid. I think it was like 77% of your money is through state aid. So that is directly affected by student count. So the more students you have, the more state aid you get. You could see a trend here going back to, it looks like fiscal year between 2017 and 2018, you've had a declining student count for, that's about 6 or 7 consecutive years there. So that's a really big part of your ability to, grow the district, build fund balance, and maintain services is really driven by your student count. So that is something that's, having a very meaningful impact on your budget each and every year.
Audrey, and this is probably a question better directed towards you. Reduction in student count is not exclusive to Groseal. That is a statewide endemic, isn't it?
Yes, correct. At our last Wayne County Superintendent's meeting, there was one superintendent that celebrated an increase in enrollment this year. Everyone else was suffering from a decrease in enrollment.
Because we're not if we take the net of how many kids go out of the district and how many we bring in, we're ahead with school of choice on that, correct?
Correct.
Linda, what is the allotment per pupil this year?
It's 99.
9,913 for fiscal year 24.
913.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not sure what it is for fiscal year '25.
So when you look at over the past
They-
4 years,
It was unchanged.
there's no change.
we've lost over 200 students in the past 4 years alone. So when you're
Yeah,
$10,000 a student,
right.
in pretty easy math, it's a couple million.
Yeah, and we've projected another, loss for 24, 25 as well.
2 million.
Like 70 students, yeah.
So I touched on this last slide a little bit already. This is your fund balance. So your target is about 2 to 3 months. That's about 15 to 18%. So you're about in the middle at about 16.4% for fiscal year '24. The latest and greatest we have across the state for all of the districts is fiscal year 2023 numbers. So up at the top in your peer group, which is about 1,500 to 2,000 students, they're about 22.4%. So you are below peer at 16.4%, but you are within your goal of about 2 to 3 months expense, or 15 to 18%.
And our budget for '25 has us just above 10% at the end of this year.
If you were at about a 900 or so thousand loss, yeah, that'll take you close to 10, maybe 11%.
At what point does the state get involved?
Early warning is usually around 5%. So I think they use different metrics. I don't know if they strictly look just at fund balance, but that's about when
When
you see it commonly brought up.
we were under last time, that's when we dipped, we went to 4.8 and we were on the watch list. And that was expensive because we had to have extra audits done, peer reviews. She told us, and those peer reviews told us nothing that we didn't know, that we were actually, a lot of our expenses were in line or better than our peers. And luckily with the enhancement millage, that's what pulled us out.
So that brings me to my last slide. So I probably present here for 15 or 20 minutes, but there's a lot of work that goes on for the audit and the audit team, but Linda has to do even more work than us to get things ready for us to get out here and work through her audits. We're out here for nearly a week, and we interrupt her a lot, and we appreciate how attentive her and her staff is. She's does a great job of getting us what we need and getting out of here so we can present in October.
Well, thank you to you, Tim, and your staff. I know it's not easy, but Linda, thank you so much, because someone once said on another board I sit on, good audits just don't happen by accident. They are with internal controls and fidelity that's what happens. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and your team. You've done a great job. You have always been so pleasant to be here in our offices when you're here with us. And specifically, thank you to Linda. It is a huge week for her when our auditors are in, and her team is fantastic. Well done.
I want to thank, and Tim too, thanks for getting this done a little bit earlier than what we've had in the past, so. I can get my
appreciate that.
year-end reports done.
It's good timing. You
was.
want to go faster next year? No? All right, thank you.
And thank you, Linda. Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to public participation. I have two forms here. If there are folks that walked in and want to participate in public participation, please just fill out a form on the cart over there, hand it to Robin. You can wave. And you're more than welcome to come up. Just a reminder that folks will have 5 minutes to speak, and I've asked Scooter here to help keep time if we need that. So the first person I have is Molly Clayton.
Hi. I actually have a letter here from an anonymous teacher who has left the district that she asked me to read, and I told her I would. And then I just have a couple things to say after that about our personal experience in the district. This teacher said, I left the district after only a few years. I loved the community, students, and my coworkers. I had a lack of support when it came to my position. I was stretched thin, and my role was made more complex due to a decrease in teaching staff. The overall rapport of the staff was low, based on everyone being unhappy with curriculum, administrators, and staffing changes. I also realized that neighboring districts were willing to pay a huge difference in salary for the same job at the same pay step, which during an inflation is life-changing. Unfortunately, the decision to leave was easy. I don't think they will retain any new hires based on their low starting rates and overall unhappiness of the staff. I have 2 children that we pulled out of the district last year. My daughter was in middle school. We took her out in October. I was concerned that she was going to harm herself because the bullying was so bad. And I met with the administration multiple times. And my feeling was that they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to help. And the guidance that we were given was minimal, and there was minimal support for all of us. Our decision to pull our son was kind of based on his anxiety and his sister leaving. My family's been through quite a bit in the last few years, as my son is battling cancer. And this put a tremendous emotional strain on my daughter, and it was something that the kids in her class would use against her at times. And she unfortunately is not one of those kiddos that fits in a box. She feels things deeply and loudly, but I don't feel like I had a choice. And it gutted me because my children were going to be 3rd-generation graduates from Grosse Ile High School. My dad was on the school board when I graduated in 1991. He signed my diploma. My grandfather was on the school board the entire time my dad was in school. And this was during a time like in the 50s and 60s when if you were Catholic, you went to parochial school. But my grandfather wouldn't hear of it. He believed so deeply in these schools. Seeing this deficit and understanding what you're up against, I understand why we're struggling right now. I am so glad I'm not you. And I thought about running for school board originally, but I don't have the time with my son being ill. But you have really big problems. And how do you balance all the things to keep the school district clicking along? I wish I had answers. And I don't feel like I'm helping by taking my kids out. But at the end of the day, I had to do what I needed to do to protect my children. Well, my one child. The other one he's happy kind of anywhere. But so I do wish you luck. And if anybody ever needs anything from me, picking my brain, asking questions, I am always open to that. And I do appreciate you tremendously. This community lifted us up through the worst time in my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Kristen, would you like to come up next?
My name is Kristen Boucher, and I'm the parent of a GIHS senior. I'd like to talk briefly about my son's experience at GIHS over the last nearly 4 years. I put this in writing several times, and each time it kind of blows my mind to think that this has been the reality of the GI students over the past 4 years. Since starting high school, my son has had 3 superintendents, 3 high school principals, 3 high school assistant principals, 3 resource room case managers, and 3 speech pathologists. And you all know that right now he does not have a speech pathologist in his building. In addition, the number of daily classes required by students has gone from 7 per day, then down to 6. This year it's back up to 7. So it's a little bit difficult to know whether my graduating senior will actually have the credits he needs to graduate because of all of the flux. I work in special education as a special education teacher consultant, and I know that IEPs are legal binding documents. I also know the importance of consistency when it comes to servicing our students. As a parent and an educator, I feel that Grosse Ile Township schools have failed our students, particularly those needing a resource room accommodation at the high school level. Recently, an infographic prepared by the Grosse Ile Education Association has been circulating through the community. This has illustrated what my family has experienced with Grosio schools. As strange as it sounds, as I was looking through everything, I kind of found great comfort in hearing that many of the families have had similar issues and concerns, and that my family was not an island of one, as we were told by the district at one point about a year and a half ago. Many of the families have expressed that they are afraid of retaliation against their student if they speak up. And really, I hate to say it, but I agree. I am petrified, but I'm more afraid not to speak up. So I'm taking my chances. These statistics directly correlate with the culture that has been cultivated at GITS schools. Grosio schools have some of the most dedicated and educated staff in the state, hands down. The staff as a whole goes above and beyond for the students. They often work beyond their contract hours to assist students with homework, answering emails, showing up at events after school, sporting events, dance things, anything that the kids need, and much more. The class of 2025 in particular missed their 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. due to COVID. Nothing we could do about that. But they were offered an even better experience earlier this year. Not only did they go to Washington, D.C., but they detoured and did a couple days in New York City. It was a phenomenal trip for my son. It was amazing. And it would not have happened without the dedication of your staff. Being a teacher is not for the glory, for the paycheck, for the pats on the back. It's a calling. We want to teach students, work with families, provide them everything that they need to become functioning members of society to the best of their ability to showcase their talents as an individual child. Not everybody can be a teacher, for sure, and I think we all know that. 33 of the Grosio teaching staff has left the district over the past 3 years. That's 40%. In a small district like us, it's like astounding to me. It's a huge number. The staff has lived in fear and anxiety, and I feel like the fear and anxiety has definitely trickled down to the students. We need to stop it now. We understand that it's a challenge. Budgeting is a challenge. Inflation is crazy. Everybody is feeling it. But we need to come together, give the teachers a fair and equitable multi-year contract, demonstrate respect for their experience and their education, support an autonomy and decision-making that reflect the needs of our students and of our community as a whole.
30 seconds.
Gotcha. Our students deserve the best, and that starts with teachers who feel valued and appreciated by their district, school board, and community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. I do have a statement on behalf of the board that I am going to read. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and for those watching at home and those who have emailed us as well. All of us here volunteer our time as board members because we deeply care about our district, our students, and our staff, including our amazing teachers. Negotiations are always a difficult and sensitive process, but we trust the process and we believe that we will work through this together for an outcome that honors our teachers and is fiscally responsible to our community. It is important to keep in mind that we had a tentative agreement that the union's negotiating team agreed to in May of this year. That agreement was ultimately voted down by the union, which is a first in the history of negotiations for our district. Having that tentative agreement voted down set us back months, and as such, we're still negotiating. However, because we're negotiating in good faith, in August, we gave steps to all eligible teachers while we continue to negotiate other parts of the contract. The board is committed to investing in teachers, and this is evidenced by our actions over the past 3 years. For example, last year, the board agreed to provide tremendous increase in salary for our teachers. Every teacher who was not at the top of the teaching schedule received a 7.5% increase in their salary on average. And some individuals received increases that were over a 12% increase in their salary. Teachers at the top of the teaching scale received a 5% increase in their pay. We are committed to continuing to negotiating in good faith with our teachers union and to working with our community to continue making Groseal Township Schools the best that we can for our kids. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to information and discussion, and we have a first reading of the Neola update. I'll turn that over to you.
We will get started with our first reading of Title IX updates. We had a policy committee in which we reviewed these updates. We are looking to adopt and accept the new policy as recommended by Neola. That also is issued by the United States Department of Education. Anyone on the policy committee, if you'd like to speak to any of those changes, the changes are in front of the board in their board book.
No, they're just, how do I say, most of the changes were just changing nomenclature, if anything, and adopting them, and we as a committee felt it was important to keep with Neola for risk mitigation, unless we're told otherwise, and because if we go off Neola, and Neola makes changes, and we've gone off of them, now we don't make them, and now we're exposing the district to liability for now, especially with Title IX, that could be very expensive.
Exactly.
Anyone have questions on this?
We'll just update the officers.
Yep, it'll all be changed.
Okay. Great, thank you. We will move on to consent grouping. Can I get a motion, please?
Move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approves the consent grouping items as presented.
Support?
This is a payment of bills for September 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024, in the amount of $1,498,409.75, as well as the approval of minutes from our regular meeting and our closed session on September 24th, as well as our work session on October 8th.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our action items. Can I get a motion for our personnel update?
I move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approves the personnel update as presented.
Support.
It is the hire of, if I butcher this name, I apologize, Lorianne Smolars as a food service at Park Lane, and the resignation of Andrea Watson and Karen Feldman.
We had a support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, we have the paraprofessionals contract. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approve the Groseal Cafeteria Employees Contract October 23rd, 2024 through June 30th, 2026 contract as presented.
Support.
Any discussion on this? Thanks for your work, Carla.
Shouldn't that be parapro, not cafeteria?
That's correct.
Sorry.
It's parapro.
Oh, parapro.
Okay, it's wrong in our board book. Do we need to?
It'll have to be.
Can you,
Restate it?
yeah.
Change.
Okay, let me get back to my spot here. I recommend that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approve the Groseal Parapro Employees Contract October 23rd, 2024 through June 30th, 2026 contract as presented.
Support.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. We will move on to winter taxes. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that the Groseal Township Schools Board of Education approve the tax rates for the 2024 winter tax collection as presented.
Support.
And this is for our state property taxes, our local property taxes, the homestead home harmless at 0.3227, our non-homestead at 9, our bond debt at 2.795, and our sinking fund at 0.4861, for a total of $3.406890 and 3.6038 mills of homestead, 12.2811 mills non-homestead. This was reviewed in the Finance Committee and in the work session.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, next we have gifts to the district. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education accept the gifts to the district as presented with thanks.
Support.
And we received a check donated by Northern Packaging to support the girls' basketball teams for $1,500. We received Louis G. Liggett Charitable Trust Funds for $16,000. These funds support the Liggett Fund, which in turn furnishes support to Grosse Ile students in need. And we also received a drum set donated by Jacob Kuzma for the use and support by Grosse Ile High School music program. So thank you to all of these generous donors.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, and our last one for this evening is the overnight athletics. Can I have a motion, please?
Move that the Grosse Ile Township Schools Board of Education approves the overnight athletic trips for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Support.
Do each year to approve all the trips that may occur during the school year.
And have occurred at this point.
Have occurred, yeah.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, we will move on to the superintendent update.
All right, I have a few quick updates for us and some celebrations of success around the district. So this year, all Grosse Ile Township staff members have been focused on creating what we call surprise and delight moments for our students and for our staff. And today, Rich Luderman from Fox 2 visited our second grade students, sharing insights about his job and about weather, which was very exciting. So a very special thanks to Kristen Setek, second grade teacher, for contacting Rich Luderman and getting him to our building. It was definitely a surprise and delight that we all got to enjoy. And thank you to Mr. Luderman as well for coming down to Grosse Ile. He said he does not normally make his way this far south, so we are grateful to him. And tonight on the evening news, he even gave a shout out to Mrs. Setek, the second graders of Park Lane and Grosse Ile students. So that was very exciting. Over the past week, I had the pleasure of watching many of our student athletes compete. I've been at soccer, football, I've watched the marching band. I traveled to Midland for boys tennis who are playing in states. I know there are many other athletes who are playing this week, but I'm always so proud not only for their athletic accomplishments, but also for their sportsmanship as well. And that's always very obvious with our students. I am looking personally forward to homecoming festivities this week. So for those watching at home, our Powder Puff game is scheduled for tomorrow at 5:30, being held on the soccer field. Homecoming parade will take place on Friday at 4:30 down Macomb. And then we look forward to seeing everyone at the game on Friday night at 7 at Woodhaven High School. And then our students will have a great time at the dance on Saturday night. And I would just like to publicly thank Woodhaven Brownstown Schools and their staff for allowing us to use their beautiful facility in our time of need. And we are incredibly grateful for their kindness and for them being such good neighbors to our district. We appreciate them. That is all I have.
Thank you. All right, can I have a motion to move into closed session, please?
I move that we enter into closed session to discuss collective bargaining.
Support?
I'm going to do a roll call.
Yes.
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 All right, we will take a 5-minute break.